In this tutorial, we're going to execute a SQL script from PowerShell. It's going to be a nice easy one. To do that, the script is just going to insert into a table with a text PowerShell test and a little timestamp. And this text file, or this SQL file, sorry, is saved just here. And the PowerShell to do that is just here. Now, what I've done is I've created a nice little table which you can do, and that's just down here. And it's just an ID column, some sample text, and a timestamp column so we know what time it's executed. So if I open up this file, it will open up here, and I'm going to use Invoke-sqlcmd cmdlet. And to do that, it's going to use a server instance, passing the name here, and the location of the input file. So what I've done is I've created a couple of variables. This is my SQL Server instance name. So if I open this, you'll see that's the same name as up there. If you're using this in a work environment, you'd obviously have to provide the server name in there. And that's there just here. So if we look at the table first, which is just here, we can see it's empty. It's got the 3 columns there. And I'm going to run this and I'm going to execute it. Nice and simple, it's executed. And if I go to here, it's now run this script, so this SQL script, and inserted into this table. So I can run that multiple times and we can see the timestamp when it's just been executed. Now what we can do as well, we can start to throw an error, because if you want this in your work environment to run on a schedule, it might be something that runs overnight and you want it to run at 3 o'clock in the morning when you aren't working, it might error, and we want to be able to see what that is. So the first thing we want to do is throw an error for it. So let's change this and we'll add a few characters onto it, because what that will do is we're only allowed this is a varchar 16, so if we make this up to about 18, then it will start to fail. So if I now run this, we can see it'll be truncated and it's thrown us an error. So if we now fix that, and let's get that working again. And we know it's working. What we might want to do is we might want to add a log file to it. So this is a really simple way of doing it, where we can add this log file to the same path. We can execute it, and if we go here, we can see it's created our little log file. But if you look at the size of it, it's empty. So what this is doing is just showing us any errors. Now, if we were to go back into SQL Server, we'll change this text again. We'll save the file. Run this, and now the script's worked, but any errors are no longer thrown and they're now placed within this log file, as you can see, which is really handy if we're to schedule something to run at say 3 o'clock in the morning, and then we can have a look and we can check this each morning to check it's worked. Now in reality, this is a pretty ugly way of doing it. What you'd probably want to do is create a function to create a file that tells you when it's starting, and then it appends to the file each time. So you can throw in a try-catch statement maybe. What we can see is that, should we execute that again, it's going to error, and this isn't being thrown because we can see it's 21:28. We've just executed it, and the last time it ran was 21:26. Now, the other alternative is you might want to run PowerShell via this. And in that case, exactly the same bit of code. It's the invokesql-cmd, and you just run that in PowerShell and it'd run easily. And that's worked. So that is how you call a SQL script from PowerShell.